Hello there. Good morning, Mr. Nelson here. And today we're going to be talking about your secret box and building the lid for your secret box. So I'm going to flip the camera down so you can take a look at what we're going over here. All right. There we go. So for our lid part of the project, I'm going to move the box part over here. So for the lid part of the project, obviously you're going to need your piece of pine here, 3/4 inch thick. It is, we got a tape right here so we can figure it out. Just under 3 inches, just under 4 inches. It's about 3 7/8 by just under 7.5 inches. So we'll fit in that in the top of your box just nicely. Other things you're going to need are your 2 pieces of fir. Remember, these are different species of wood than the pine that's inside there. And the reason I chose these is they sort of stand out. So you need your 2 pieces of fir. You're going to need a hammer. You also, obviously, just like we just used, you're going to need your tape measure. You're going to need a pencil. And you're going to need your 4 last 1-inch nails. So your 4 1-inch nails to be able to attach this to your top up there. All right. So, and one other thing you are going to need before we start putting all this together is some sandpaper. Because when you're putting this together, it's easier to do the sanding now without those other parts sticking out. So I'm going to go ahead and sand all of the edges of this. So you're going to have these edges. You have one factory edge, but go ahead and sand that. So you have all your edges on here to sand up. So let's get those sanded up first. So go ahead and sand up all your edges. All right, so I just went through and sanded all this up. I went through and making sure that you're sanding with the grain while you're doing this, and all around, all the corners and all the edges, all the sides here, everything is nice and smooth. And I also don't have any scratch marks going across the top there. It's nice and smooth going with the grain as I'm sanding. All right, next step is we're going to take these, and again, these are going to be a whole lot easier to sand out before we install them, because once we install them, it would be very difficult to sand that edge without scratching that really bad. So I'm going to go ahead and sand these, same process. I want to sand up all of the edges. Now this fir is, if you get a splinter with this, it can really hurt. So be careful with this. For some reason, there's some kind of oil or something in fir that causes it to get, it sort of stings when you get a splinter with this. So if you get a splinter with it, try to get it out immediately with a pair of pliers or a needle or something like that. Somebody remove it for you. So I'm going to go ahead and sand up both of these so they're ready to install onto my top here. All right, now I have these and they're all sanded nice and smooth all around. I can rub my hands all around them and they're not getting any kind of splinters on here or anything. So now I'm ready to start putting them on my top here. So I'm going to take these off and I'm going to make some marks on my top here as far as the location for the 2 of these. Now I thought about this and I'm thinking that we're going to have these in 1.25 inches from these outside edges. So each one of these is going to be located 1.25 inches in from the outside edge. So I'm going to make some marks on here, 1.25 inches in. Just going to make 2 light marks here with my pencil at 1 1/4 and another one at 1 1/4. And then one here at 1 1/4. And another one here at 1 1/4. So I have my 4 marks on there at 1 1/4. And then I'll show you where you're going to be marking your top pieces here. Now, the next thing I want to do is to be able to mark on my 2 top pieces here where the nails need to go on here. And again, we'll get our tape measure out. And we're going to go in 1.5 inches from each end. So these are going to be in 1.25 inches. And from the ends here, these are going to be in 1.5 inches. I'm just going to make really light marks on here. And I'll show you why in just a minute. I have a little sort of a trick, but it's not really a trick. It's just using my head a little bit more about something, about my layout. And I just realized, and again, 1.5 inches in from each side. So I've got 4 marks here at 1.5 inches in. Now I want to get the center of this, so I have to measure this just under 1 inch. It's about just over 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go at just over 3/8 of an inch. And again, I'm going to do the little trick where I move my tape measure. For me, it's easier if I go right there to the 3, right over 3/8 of an inch, right about there. And the same right here, 1/4, 3/8 of an inch, a little bit past that. I'm just going to move this one over here, right past 3/8 of an inch. And the last one, right there, right past 3/8 of an inch. Okay, we have our markings where to put our nails. We have our markings on here where we're going to be putting this. Now I'm going to get my 4 nails out. These ones, I got a couple extra, the longer ones, but I don't want to use the longer ones because if I use a longer nail, this 1 inch nails will go through and just be able to go through without popping out the bottom. Whereas if I use this longer nail, if I drove that in, it's going to come out the bottom, coming out there, and we don't want that to happen. So we just want this one right here. All right, now here's a little trick I just remembered I want to pass on to. So I want to put these nails in. I'm going to drive them in, pre-drive them in before I put them in there so they're all set. But even before I do that, I'm just going to put it right on that mark that I put. I'm going to tap it. I'm going to leave a little bit of a mark there. Then I'm going to sand off my pencil mark, because I found that sanding off some of my pencil marks on the side here was sort of difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So I'm going to put that right on that spot. Just tap it a little bit so I can see. Well, I'm off a little bit, but that's okay. I put this one, same thing, and just tap it lightly. There we go. So I've got 2 marks there. I'm going to do the same here. I'm just going to put this right on the X. Move it around a little bit, and then right on that part where I have those 2 that are crossing. And now take them out. Okay, now, since I have this, it's easier. I can sand the top of that to get the pencil marks off. As I found that some of the sanding on that to get the pencil marks wasn't easy. Maybe if I had told you this trick earlier, it would have been a simpler thing. All right, so now I've got my marks here. And again, I just want to put my nails in just so they're secure, but they're not coming out the backside. Just so it's secure and not coming out the backside, because I don't want to. Oh, there are my holes. Yeah, there they are. Put this one in. And our last one. All right, so now I'm going to place this over here. Whoops, I forgot. I got to measure this side to side, because I want to get this even so it's symmetrical this side to side. So one way to be able to do this is, I want it to be symmetrical on both sides. I can measure this. This is actually Almost, it is 1 5/8. So half of 1 5/8 is just over 3/4. It is actually a 16th beyond that. So I am going to make just a little bit of a mark right there. That's where I want my piece to line up here. So I have my 2 marks on the top there, and then I have my side mark there. And before I nail this on, I'm just going to double check my measurement. Actually at 13/16 there, and just under 13/16 there too. All right. So my measurements are good. I made a slight mark right there at 13/16, just over 3/4. I have my 2 marks on the top there. I'm just going to cover those up a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to nail this in. There we go. There's one side. Now we'll flip it around and do the other. Same thing. I want to make a mark here, just over 3/4. And I'm just making the mark on my side here. That's 3/4. And so that's where we want to go right there. I'm going to line this one up first. So that lined up. So first I want to measure here, just under 7/8. Just there. A little bit more on this side. Okay. Where are my lines? There's one. There's the other. All right. Just double checking my measurements, making sure that they're even. Just putting my tape measure on there just to make sure they're even. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw my 2 nails in. It's all sanded. It's all set. And there we go. It's all even on the sides there. It turned out pretty nice. Turn around and it's even on that side too. So there's your top for your box, and it's already sanded and you're pretty well set to go at this point. Good job.